Hello. This video is in a response to one of my subscribers, Jamie. He asked me what my thoughts were on reincarnation because I just lightly touched on it in the first video on the introduction to the Commanding Self by Mr. Idris Shah. First off, I want to say this might be a long video. Secondly, I want to start off by explaining a little bit about the idea of reincarnation. Historically, in a lot of different philosophical and spiritual writings, reincarnation doesn't really start showing up until around the 9th century BC. And that starts mostly with the Hindus and the Brahmins and the Upanishads from the interior over there of India and Pakistan and Afghanistan. And then it shows up again in some of the later writings of the Buddha and of the Tao, the teachings of the Tao. And there's a little bit of it that comes through in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, but they kind of sort of flow the same way the Egyptians did, where the Egyptians didn't necessarily believe in reincarnation. They believed that they were sending the pharaoh and anybody else that was embalmed, they believed they were sending them on to the afterlife. That's why they included their food and their clothes and their weapons and their personal belongings and stuff, because it was a journey that they were going on into the afterlife. That's why they embalmed their body, so that maybe later on when they came back they could reanimate the same body. But you know what I'm saying, that's kind of a shaky version of reincarnation. Here in the western parts of the spiritual world, reincarnation really didn't start making a big appearance until around the late 1700s to mid 1800s, and then it's kind of sort of just drifted along on its own momentum with its own ideas and its own thoughts, because especially here in America, because we had all this influx of all of the settlers, and they had different religious mindsets, the Puritans, all of the people at Plymouth Rock, and all of the first settlers of America, right? They were running from religious persecution, so their ideas on certain things were disjointed and not wholly complete per se, you know what I'm saying? And so there really wasn't a coherent stream of thought on reincarnation until around the late 1800s, early 1900s, when the Theosophy Society started springing up. Aleister Crowley and Mathers McGregor and those guys from the Golden Dawn and other magical sects and groups that were trying to figure out what happens after you pass from this earthly life existence into the great beyond. So with all of that being said, Jamie, right, here we go. I believe in reincarnation because of the traditions where I come from, the Celts, the Druidic traditions. Remember I explained to you how they believed in the three spheres, the lowest sphere being the animalistic tendencies and the animalistic nature of the universe, and the middle sphere being the human nature and the human tendencies of the humans that populate the earth, and then the upper sphere being the sphere of Ashkara, the sphere of energy that is the greater universe, God. This was the house of God, where all of the gods lived, right? In the Druidic traditions, it was believed that if you didn't achieve whatever goals that you had for this life, then when you passed on, when they burned your corpse and you passed your spirit was released, your Ashkara was released into the known universe, right? When you came back, if you came back. If you were one of these people that hadn't completed their life lessons, right? If when you came back, you were reincarnated into something in the animalistic sphere, because obviously in the Druids' minds you had not attained any semblance of human evolution to attain to the next level. Remember, the next level goes from human to God. So you were reincarnated back in as a bug or a rabbit or an elk, or you know what I'm saying? That's why there's a lot of animal totems in these paganistic traditions, because these animalistic totems represented those facets of human nature that they couldn't explain. Now, in the Eastern traditions, I rely heavily on the Sufi traditions, because the Sufi traditions are centered around ourselves and how to improve ourselves. It's not learning about, Mr. Shaw's books are not about figuring out how to manipulate everybody else. It's figuring about how to manipulate yourself to be, I am that, right? That. Anyways, I'm digressing again. Anyways, for you, Jamie, what I believe is that in the modern sense, we have the full understanding of what energy is, how it works, and what it does through that mechanism of working. Right? We all know that it takes energy to create energy. Energy never dies, it never dissipates, it can never be destroyed. It can only be converted into some other form of energy. You know what I'm saying? The super collider over there, the CERN super collider over there in France proved all of this. They spin atoms around at twice the speed of light, slam it into a wall, and bang! What do you got? You got a whole bunch of quarks and mini quarks and super quarks and quantum physics and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's still the same basic atom of energy, but it's broken down into its individual constituent parts. Well, that's what I think. I think that when our organic machine passes dust to dust, right? That part of us that is spiritual, that is the energy being that we are, remember, 1/1,000,000th of a volt, right, is released into the greater universe, and it floats around until it bonds with another piece of energy, another atom of energy that's its polar opposite. Remember, opposites. It bonds with its polar opposite, and it creates a new being. Now, this being is part your energy and part energy from the other person or thing, right, that you bonded with. All right, and then this energy is therefore reincarnated into the next sentient being to be born. All right, now, I don't necessarily believe that you have to learn more life lessons, or you have to unlearn life lessons, or you have to, like my friend jokes with me. He tells me that if I was bad for so long, the reason is because I must, in a previous life or something, I must have been some kind of hellion and burned down a church or something, right? Because my past life experiences have been horrific sometimes. I was in the military. I participated in some police actions. You know what I'm saying? I did things that I'm not proud of, but I'm not afraid of the man I am because of them. But to get back to this reincarnation thing, right, I can see how all of the Eastern traditions and even the Western traditions have some foothold in merit. Or let me say it this way: in the modern times now, right, and let's go back to the '60s when all of this New Age stuff started up again. In the modern times, in America, in the Western part of the world, reincarnation is viewed as this. You know what I'm saying? You didn't learn what you needed to learn. You get reincarnated into another human being. You got to live it all over again until you learn those lessons that you're supposed to learn. And if you learn those lessons at the end of that second life, or third life, or fifth life, or 700th life, or like the Dalai Lama, 48 in a row, right? You know what I'm saying? The Dalai Lama puts a hole in this theory. But anyways, right? If you learn all of these lessons, then at the end of your material life, you have reached that goal to ascending into heaven and being at the right hand of God. But like I said, the Dalai Lama puts holes all through this because he's 48 in a row, and I'm pretty sure the Dalai Lama got all the lessons along the way. Ambe.
Yeah.
Right? So, but... Oh, it's my friend, Goofy. So, to cap this off, Jamie, I do believe that we go through some metamorphic change and that we do become reincarnated to a certain extent into a new person. For whatever reason. For whatever reason the universe, or whatever reason the gods, or whatever reason this occurs, I believe in it. I think that your second or your third or your ninth go round, you know what I'm saying, by the end of your second go round, you should have achieved those life lessons that you didn't, that you skipped over. But alluding to a previous video that I made, bad people, they have no understanding of this. It doesn't compute in their little feeble mind that they're going to keep going on and on and on. And unfortunately, because they started out bad, and it's not going to change the mindset, and if reincarnation is true, and we do still retain some of our facilities and some of our awareness of who we were previously, then that evilness is going to carry forward into the next version. And they're going to be just as rough, just as raw. Because what happens if they're one of those little children that accidentally does remember who they were in a previous life, and then that life takes over again? Which reminds me, there was this professor dude that spent, I think his name was Stevenson. You could look him up. He spent a whole lifetime empirically studying reincarnation. What he did was he went around collecting information from children between 3 and 5 years old, because apparently children's dogs are the ones that get all this. He collected all of this information over a 44-year time span and correlated it all. And he was a very respected man. He was a man of letters. He was a professor at University of Virginia. He worked for the government. He wrote published literally hundreds of scientific papers. This was a very well respected individual within the scientific community. The reason he was respected so well is because his empirical research into this subject proved categorically, undeniably, that there is some truth to the theory of reincarnation, because children would remember, right? And saying not only could they recall experiences from their past lives, but they could actually recall friends who were still alive and family members and place them in the family tree once they were brought into contact with the people who they claimed they came from. There are literally thousands of these case studies. I was just reading about it this morning so I could be ready for this video that's now 13 minutes and 14 seconds long. But anyway, Jamie, yes, I do believe in reincarnation. Yes, I do believe that through this reincarnated self, we will achieve a higher status. And that hopefully, you know, saying the next time around, there won't be a next time around, because then we'll be part of heaven. Let me know what you guys think about this stuff. All those 6 or 9 people that actually watch these spirituality videos that I've been making for you, let's hear what you have to say on this subject. Reincarnation, is it real or is it a hoax? Thank you.